And we are going to be watching about Toby, the neuter genderless person. Actually, let me just open all these up in order in another tab. That's going to be a better way to do this. And this was on Sally Jessy back in the 80s. And this might be our first cultural non-binary person on Sally Jessy, of course. Hang on. I'm just getting this set up. Oh my god, you guys are gonna die. Now, I know I asked earlier, but one's in the chat if you used to watch Sally Jessy, two in the chat if you've never watched Sally Jessy. Yes, Sally Jessy is like a talk show. This is like an old school talk show. So Sally Jessy was like a more high class version of Jerry Springer. Judy, you've never watched Sally Jessy? I am like literally shocked. So this is Sally Jessy. Sally Jessy is famous for her red glasses, okay? And no one will besmirch Sally Jessy on my channel. I won't have it. This is like a more high-class version of Jerry Springer, where basically people with odd stories would come to the show and they would tell their stories, and then the audience members would ask them questions. And there was no throwing of chairs on Sally Jessy. There was no yelling. There was no fighting. Sally Jessy didn't allow that, okay? Let's learn about Toby, the neuter genderless person.
I don't know. I guess if I thought in my head and did all the physical things, I could be a man, correct? But you don't want to do either of those.
I don't want to do either of those.
You want to be a neutered person. Yep. A neuter.
Neuter, not neutered.
Right, neuter.
Neuter.
All right. Are you annoyed with me that I'm this ignorant?
No.
Because I think I am. I mean, I don't really, like a lot of people, I guess, I don't really understand all of this. If we take a break and we come back, will you explain it? I have a million questions.
Yeah.
I have questions too, Sally.
I mean, in case you're just joining us, we're talking today about something that's really fascinating. This is Toby, and Toby is neuter. And I have been, excuse my ignorance, trying to understand it. Toby, you seem almost proud of the idea that you are neuter. You could be male and fit in with society, or you could be female. I mean, there are ways of doing that today with medical science.
Why should I?
But you don't. But why don't you want? Why should you? Because, well, there are girls' schools and boys' schools. You have to put down one or another on all kinds of forms,
Wow.
on driver's licenses and things.
This is a trip already. This was in 1989. Sally is literally doing What is a Woman in 1989.
There are ways of doing that today with medical science.
Why should I?
But you don't. But why don't you want? Why should you? Because, well, there are girls' schools and boys' schools. You have to put down one or another on all kinds of forms, on driver's licenses and things like that. One would think it would make your life easier to choose one and go with it.
Easier by whose standards? You're a woman.
Right.
There's a lot of discrimination and prejudice against women in this society. It would make your life a lot easier if you would just have your sex changed and become a man. You could fit in better, you would get more professional credibility, you would have a better chance for advancement.
All right, but I can't change what I am, or I don't want to.
Which is it? You can't or you don't want to?
Either.
But you can have a sex change.
You could. One could.
One could. I could, you could, anybody could. Most people don't.
But isn't it complicated in a whole world that's set up for men and women?
It's complicated.
This was like, do you guys know how sometimes trans people are like, I don't even have to have a sex change to be trans. I don't need to do any surgery to be trans. This is like an earlier version of that.
It is complicated. But why choose to do
Yo!
something that's complicated?
I did not choose to exist. Finding that I exist, I determined that it's a good thing that I exist. I like being who I am. Why should I try to be anybody else?
All right, that makes sense. People are probably asking, why are we talking about this today? And one of the reasons is, of course,
I mean, maybe did they call it neuter instead of non-binary in the 80s? Was this actually a thing in the 80s?
that the purpose of what
I mean, listen, we know that queercore is like the movement that within the punk movement where a lot of this queer non-binary stuff was really cultivated in the queercore movement, which started in the 70s but really, got a lot bigger in the 80s. So if this episode was in 1989, I bet you that this person was involved in like the queercore movement, because 1989 the queercore stuff would have been pretty much like peaking, right? What's this? Holy shit. Bot. Check this out. Bot is the chief investigative officer for the cult, for this reason exactly. Bot just went to the non-binary wiki. Neuter is a long-established word for sex or gender outside of the binary. Oh! Various dictionaries generally give it two relevant definitions, among others. A gender neither masculine nor feminine, genderless, gender neutral, an androgynous person, or without sexual organs or with incomplete sexual organs, so that'll be like an intersex person or whatever. Although the word neuter has existed in English with these meanings for hundreds of years, surveys show that it hasn't been very common for contemporary non-binary people to call themselves neuter. However, neuter was mentioned as one of the valid non-binary identities in the 2013 text Sexuality and Gender for Mental Health Professionals. I've seen this person in zines. I've seen this person depicted in zines. Wow. What a time to be alive. Back to Sally.
we try to do here every day is understanding. And that's why Toby said, okay, let me try and explain. Now, just like me trying to tell you, well, Toby, it's easier being male or female, I'm sure doctors and parents and people have been doing that your whole life, haven't they?
Yes. We can do all these things. We can give you hormones, we can give you surgery, we can teach you behaviors and role-playing and train you to fit in as a female or as a male. We can rearrange your body and put chemicals into you, and it'll change everything. Well, why bother?
Must be a heck of a fight, you know? That's what I'm thinking. It's going through my mind, what a difficult fight. Number one, you don't have a pronoun.
Right.
I can't say, this is Toby, he. Now, I used he, but you would prefer me not to use he or she. We don't have a pronoun in English.
An ideal language would have a pronoun. Again, do you change yourself to fit what's outside?
No, I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying
Pronouns.
How difficult. Maybe in a way, though, all of life is or should be a fight to be the best of who we are, not changing ourselves. I mean, that's something that you hear about. I'm sure people are fascinated by your sex life.
Yeah, people are a lot more fascinated by that than I am.
Asexual.
What sex life?
Asexual.
You have
Asexual.
no sex life.
That's right. And it's not just a matter of not having the equipment, because professionals have been very, very earnestly and sincerely helpful in explaining to me all of these things that I can do, even without a penis or a vagina. And I sit there and I listen to them and I think, why on earth would I want to do that?
Did this person literally castrate themselves? Is that why they have a funny voice?
Toby, if you don't have the feeling for sex, if it isn't there, if you never knew that it existed, which in effect you don't, then it doesn't become a major number, right?
No, it doesn't. When I was 16, I was at a clinic where all these professionals were telling me, you can get a prosthetic penis made.
Toby has a
and it will exactly...
wait. Toby has an entry in the wiki. Hang on. Toby has an entry in the wiki. I don't see it in the wiki. What is it under?
Match your skin color and it'll be exactly the right size for you, and you can strap it on and you can have sex with it just like a man. And I sat there and I thought, what good would that do me?
Because you don't desire it.
Well, even if I did...
Wait, we're going to go back. Did they teach this person this at 16? Jim Sinclair? Is that who this person is? Jim Sinclair. I don't see any mention of Toby in this entry, Maldy. So I'm sorry, I don't see what you're talking about. If you want to DM it to me, that would be great.
A major number, right?
No, it doesn't. When I was 16, I was at a clinic where all these professionals were telling me, you can get a prosthetic penis made. And it will exactly match your skin color and it will be exactly the right size for you, and you can strap it on and you can have sex with it just like a man. And I sat there and I thought, what good would that do me?
Because you don't desire it.
Well, even if I did desire it, this is a piece of rubber. It does not have any feeling in it. It's not a part of my body. It's just, I might as well leave the thing home for my so-called partner to play with while I go out to a movie. You know what? If I'm going to...
Wow.
If I'm going to be having a relationship with somebody, it's got to be me in that relationship, not some contraption that some doctors make.
Do you have any relationship? Do you have a relationship?
I have lots of relationships. I have...
Okay, a romantic relationship.
How do you define romantic?
Romantic. Interesting. Toby, it's almost as if you got here from Mars. I mean, you know, I'm beginning to feel I'm in a sci...
Based Sally? Can you imagine saying that to a non-binary person today? It's almost like you got here from Mars. Yeah, Sally. Yeah, exactly. Sally was ahead of all of us.
Interesting. Toby, it's almost as if you got here from Mars. I mean, you know, I'm beginning to feel I'm in a sci-fi movie.
I feel that way
Romantic
too.
is...
The difference is that I'm the stranger on your planet, and you've got all these other people around
That's
here
right.
that are from the same planet you are, and I'm all alone here.
Okay, things that feel good. It feels wonderful to kiss somebody.
Yuck.
Yuck?
Yuck. No kissing. That's out.
Okay, it doesn't make you feel wonderful to kiss.
No.
It feels wonderful to hug and hold somebody.
That can be nice.
That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
When you feel that wonderful, that's nice, do you want to do anything more?
Not very often. I mean, what do you mean, anything more?
You want to get even more of a feeling of wonderful.
I think I can see where you're leading, and I'd like to lead you. There are all kinds of things that can lead to. All right, let me give you an example. I have a relationship that has been going on for almost 12 years now. We live together, we sleep together, we hug and cuddle a lot. There is never any genital contact except in cases where the other party needs assistance with personal hygiene. We're going to be together permanently Is that a romantic or a sexual relationship?
No, it's not actually. Not if you're not having sex.
No, it's
It's a
love.
loving one.
It's love.
All right, if I tell you that the other party in that relationship is my dog, does it make any difference?
Toby, you
Yes.
just tricked me.
Why? Why is that a trick?
Oh, because we assumed that you were in a relationship with a human.
If I were to be in a relationship with a human that involved that degree of closeness, it would have to be somebody I loved at least as much as I love my dog.
You never met a human that you loved as much as you love your dog?
No. I have a permanent lifetime commitment to that dog.
You could to a human.
I could, but I've never met anybody that seemed worth it.
Toby, you're absolutely fascinating. What's scaring me is that I'm not sure you might not be right. I mean, I believe we're all put here for some kind
Don't be fooled,
of
Sally.
a lesson.
Don't
Maybe
be
not for
fooled.
ourselves, but maybe even for other people. And I'm trying to figure out what the lesson is, Toby.
See, this is the very definition of the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Sally is trying so hard. Sally's like trying to understand. Sally accused this person of being an alien and foreign to the human experience, but she's trying to understand. She's trying to be empathetic. She's trying to be kind. She's not being cruel. When in fact, what Sally should have done is say, this is not real. This is not ideal. It is not healthy. You can live whatever way you want to live, Toby, but... And you may be an intersex person. Maybe you're just a person that has mental health problems. Who knows? But neuter is not a real thing.
And figure it out, tell me, write up lesson plans and quiz people.
Not that way. Not that cold, cut and dried. Do you believe in God?
Yes.
Yeah, see, this is
Does
the problem.
it therefore
This
not...
is the problem. Sally is a woman, and Dr. Phil would have handled this way differently. Dr. Phil wouldn't have been putting up with any of this nonsense.
Makes sense that maybe God planned you to be the way you are?
That opens a whole can of worms there that I'm not really prepared to get into.
Okay, you don't have to talk
I think
about it,
more along
Carson.
the lines of God gives people the strength to do the best they can with whatever they get.
Toby, does God make mistakes?
Well, if God does make mistakes, far be it from me to try to correct them. I don't think God made a mistake with me.
Take a break, we'll be right back.
All right. So weird. Is it a boy or a girl, do you think? Well, I don't think we ever get a clear answer to this. Is this a boy or a girl? I disagree in this case. This person sounds like they were mutilated as a child and probably... Well, okay, so that might be a fair point, but my question is, did anything actually happen? Or is it also possible music... Now, if this person is mutilated as a child, that is a tragedy, and that person should be given help and all that stuff. But, like, is there a possibility that this person did it to themselves? They didn't say they were intersex. No, they didn't. No. Yeah, it's like this person is doing everything they can. They're wearing a turtleneck. They've grown their hair to a weird length. They look like they could be a woman. They look like they could be a man. They're using Toby, which could be either way. Yeah, Bot, there's nothing on that page that you guys keep putting in. There's literally, I don't know why you guys are sending me stuff you're not looking at. There's nothing on that page. All right, I'll look again for the third time. Let me see. Bot, there is nothing on this page that says this person is this person. Like, there's nothing on this page. Please stop sending me things that has nothing on it, okay? Let's move on to part 2. No, you guys, okay, if then you guys need to send me something that says this person, Toby from the Sally Jessy Raphael show, is Jim Sinclair, because like 3 different people have sent me this link now, and none of these things are saying this is Jim Sinclair. All right, Sony Baloney has now sent the same link that Bot sent, and I'm going to click on it. All right, I'm going to show you guys what you keep sending me that you really shouldn't be sending me. Because this is actually starting to piss me off now. Does this have anything on it that says Toby? Why do I keep getting sent this page? What last paragraph? There's no last paragraph. There's nothing on this page. Click to this. Okay. Ah, here it is. Okay. Finally, we found it. Sinclair grew up... You're shitting me. He's Jewish? Okay, pro tip, guys. When you're sending me a page, actually send me the page you want me to look at, not some transitionary page, because this is what you guys were sending me, which had nothing on it. It has nothing on it. Jim Sinclair is an American autistic activist and writer who helped pioneer the neuro fucking diversity movement. No, I don't believe that. I believe that people are not paying attention to what they're doing. All right. Jim Sinclair and his American autistic activist and writer who helped pioneer the neurodiversity movement. Sinclair, along with Xenia Grant, Donna Williams, formed the Autism Network International. Sinclair became the original coordinator. Sinclair is an advocate for the anti-cure position on autism, arguing that autism is an integral part of the person's identity and should not be cured. Sinclair grew up Jewish. I know we're all shocked at this revelation. With a mother, a father, and a brother. At a very young age, Sinclair identified with other disabled people. They saw a blind man walking with a cane and imitated it with a cane found in their grandparents' basement. When Jim was 6 years old, they played with a set of Johnny West action figures with their brother. If one of their arms came loose, Jim would secure it by turning the lasso into an improvised sling. There we go. For another figure that broke, Jim fashioned a wheelchair for it. Jim explained that from very early on, I had the concept that you don't throw people away for being broken. Sinclair did not speak until the age of 12. Sinclair was raised as a girl, but describes having an intersex body. And in a 1997 introduction to the Intersex Society of America, Sinclair wrote, I remain openly and proudly neuter, both physically and socially. So what does that mean? They have an intersex body. Sinclair appeared on the Sally Jessy Raphael show as a guest with the alias Toby to talk about being intersex and asexual. Sinclair was the first person to articulate the autism rights. So we are literally watching the person that's responsible for autistic sex education today. Everyone just wrap their head around that. Sally Jessy Raphael in 1989 turned into autism activism, neurodiversity activism, autistic sex education. There's an origin for everything. And if you just keep going back, eventually you find the origin of everything. Okay. Let's move on to part 2 with Toby, aka Jim.
You know, Toby, did you just look at your watch? Are you wondering when this is going to be over? We are talking today about gender-related things that happen, and I want you to stay with us. It's like I'm trying to understand, and Toby is sitting here. Toby is neuter, in case you're just joining us, and Toby is extremely matter-of-fact. So I said this in the break. I said, Toby, you're very matter-of-fact, and Toby said, aren't you matter-of-fact about being a woman? Mm-hmm. And the answer is yeah. But, you know, we watch somebody who's matter-of-fact, and we say, well, how dare they be comfortable with what they are and be matter-of-fact, when, of course, matter-of-fact is what you want somebody to be about their gender or about their sexuality. So it's absolutely fascinating. You know, I referred to this as maybe somebody came from Mars, you know, but the whole idea is you don't have to come from some place like Mars. Maybe right here on Earth. Huh? Is there any hurt in this? Is there any pain?
Wow.
From what? There's pain from outside sources. There's pain from rejection. There's
What's pain from the outside source?
Being told I don't count. Being told I don't exist.
Oh, wow.
You sort of get a kind of a philosophical perspective on it, that there are people who think that they're doing me a favor to be seen with me because I'm so weird, and people ask them questions about what kind of relationship we have, and people might think that they're strange for being seen with me, and I don't need friends like that. So there's pain when somebody that I thought was my friend turns out not to be. There's pain when somebody that I ought to be able to count on for support isn't there.
Have you had a lot of that?
Had a fair share of it. The things that you talked about, filling out forms, that's minor.
It is.
I kind of sharpen my claws on the poor bureaucrats with their little forms there, and just keeps me in practice for big issues.
So that's why you do that.
It's not why I do that. It's just a side, kind of a fringe benefit.
Okay. This is,
Steve Hammond.
is there pain there too?
Yeah,
I watched you watching Toby.
there's pain. Only question I have to ask this person is, have you ever had surgery to find out if you have testicles or
Yeah, that's a good
ovaries?
question. That's a good
Yes,
question.
there's been exploratory surgery and there have been examinations, and it is absolutely certain that there is nothing there.
There is nothing. Now, let me explain why my guest brought that up. This is what my next guest looked like as she was growing up. Linda lived the life of a normal little girl until she realized that something was very wrong. At the age of 12, Linda, female, was having erections. Today, Linda isn't Linda, Linda's Steve. Now, what happened was that when Steve was born, he was mistakenly identified as a baby girl. How This is not transsexuals. This is not people who've changed their sex. This is not people who've had operations. This is somebody born, the doctor takes a look and makes a mistake.
Right.
Says this is a girl when it wasn't a girl. Explain that.
Well, I was born in a modern hospital, and the doctor smacked me on the rump and sent me on home and told my mother that, I had a healthy girl. And when I turned age 12, 13, I started getting these erections, and, my penis, I had a penis, and then it started getting erect.
No, wait. Okay.
I had undescended
Where are
testicles.
you from?
Berea, Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Uh-huh.
Even in Kentucky, there are girls and there are boys.
Right.
You had a penis. Why did they call you a girl?
Well, I was a girl at the time. I mean, I was living the life as a girl, but I was a male at birth. I had complete male sexual organs. I had the undescended testicles. My penis was covered with layers of skin. It was tied down. And I had prostate gland.
In other words, all the male organs were tucked up inside you. What the doctor saw was what looked like a female.
Right.
But you were a male.
Right.
They were just covered over and tucked up inside you.
Right, I had no vaginal opening. I never have no periods.
This would be one of those examples where none of the female parts developed and all of the male parts developed, but not all the way. Is that right?
No, I was just a complete male with a birth defect.
They weren't all the way where they should be, but they were there.
I didn't have no vaginal opening.
Right, so none of the female parts were there and all the male parts were.
All the male parts were there.
Right.
None of the female parts, but you're right. You said it very well, Toby.
Right.
You want a job here? But they were all tucked up inside, and you're living a life as a girl.
Right.
Because you don't have the male parts that people can see. And you, at 12, begin to have an erection.
Right, I go through puberty as a male, like a normal male. I experienced the normal male puberty. Here I am, a teenager, and I'm waiting on periods and waiting on my breast to develop, and I'm developing into a man. It's confusion, but it's been a trip.
Listen, that's crazy, and that's sad, and that is in a monumental exception, okay? So I actually do feel for this person. That sucks. That really sucks. And I don't think people should make fun of this person because it's not their fault. They couldn't do anything about it. This is not a case of like they decided that they were they literally were misgendered at birth. But it is an outlier, and that doesn't mean they should be treated with anything less than compassion and dignity, because they should have compassion and dignity. But it's an outlier.
For me, because I've had this battle all my life, I love sex, and that's why I had to make a decision. Here I am, a man, and I want to be a man, and I don't want to live this confused life the rest of my life. I believe God created male and female, and I believe if you go,
there goes Toby.
well, I believe if Toby went.
See, this is the kind of person that we like. They're like, God created male and female, and I was misdiagnosed as the wrong one, but I am a man. I live as a man. I have a penis. There is male and female. This is all I ask for. It's okay that there's exceptions. It's okay that there's things that go wrong. Well, it's not okay. We don't want that. That's not ideal. But as long as we can acknowledge that there are men and women and there are only two and that's all that you get, then that's enough.
Had her chromosome count and everything, I believe that she could find out what she was meant to be.
I was meant to be exactly what I am.
Well, I believe that you could find out medically, though, what you was really meant to be, male or female.
Well, I could find out
chromosomes.
what I would have been if I hadn't been what I was.
Okay. Steve, your family is bringing you up as Linda. You're 12 years old and you're still Linda. You're doing girl things, wearing girl clothes.
Well, I'm under cars and I'm playing softball. No, that stuff didn't appeal to me.
So you're being a tomboy.
I'm a tomboy.
And your family thinks you're a tomboy.
Yeah.
At what point does somebody take you to a doctor, or at what point do you say, Mom and Dad, I'm not a girl, I'm a boy, and what happens?
Well,
I mean, explain
when I
it.
started going through puberty, I was laying in bed one night and I felt this enormous erection. It scared me to death. I said, what in the world is happening to me? You know, have I got a tumor or what? You know. So I go tell Mom, I say, Mom, I said, something's not right down there. I said, and she wants to take me to the doctor right then and there, and I won't, you know, I just don't do it. I'm embarrassed, and I said, if it starts hurting, I'll go. You know, if it's something that really interferes with my health, I'll go. But, you know, I just sprouted on up and I lived a good life, you know, living that life as a female. I played softball, made a lot of friends, a lot of platonic relationships, as, you know, that I had with men and women, not no sexual relationships until I got married and stuff.
All right, but if I were talking to somebody who felt, you know, you hear people say, well, I've decided to change my sex, or I'm going to have hormones, or I'm going to have an operation, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. You are a complete and utter male, but there's got to be a time in which you made that change.
Well, I had corrective surgery, and I don't like being, don't get me wrong, I'm not, those people do what they want to, they have sex changes, and if they're living a homosexual life, that's their business. But I'm not for that, and I don't like to be categorized in that category.
Okay, I wasn't.
Well, I wasn't talking about you. I'm just talking about the world. Most of the world, I feel like they put me in a category.
Okay, but you're not.
No, I just had a birth defect. As any other baby that had a birth defect.
When was the change made?
Age 25.
25 years as a female, and now you're how old?
I lived a life as a female for 25 years. I'm 33 now. I got married at age 26. I married my wife. I had 4 surgeries within, you know, that year.
To be what you are, a male. Okay, coming up, meet the woman that Steve married.
Oh no, oh no, oh no. Are we about to get hit with, like, did Steve marry someone that was born a boy and became a... Are we about to get hit with something? Is Sally setting us up? Let's go to part 3. If Sally is setting us up, I'm going to be very upset. All right, part 3.
Steve was talking about being married. Please meet Janie Hammond, who is Steve's wife, and we have invited Dr. Leo
Normal
Woolman.
woman.
Dr. Woolman is a psychiatrist, and for the past 28 years has dealt exclusively with gender issues, and since this is a gender issue that we're talking about, we felt we needed somebody to give us some help. Question.
I just wanted to know if Toby's family stood behind him, or have they rejected you at all?
I think when you talk about families, the thing to remember is that the way a family responds to a gender issue or a disabled child or a divorce or any other kind of issue has more to do with the way the family functions than the fact that there's a gender issue or a disability or a divorce or anything else.
Yeah, I just personally wanted to say that I think God is androgynous, neither or. And Toby, I think you seem a little angry, but I'd like to say I'll be your friend. I'll accept you just as you are.
Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to ask Steve a question. You said that when you were born, you did not have a vaginal opening. Didn't that concern your doctors or your parents? I mean, it would seem to me that at that point you would begin to look for the possibility of a birth defect.
Good question.
Yeah, that's the big mystery in my life. I don't understand why they didn't catch it.
Doctor, why might they not have caught that?
It might have been 3 in the morning. The doctor might have been a little tired. Sometimes the clitoris looks like a penis and the penis like a clitoris. The vaginal lips might look like a scrotum. So it's not too difficult.
You know, if you're in a hospital, is it a rural hospital?
This is in Bellefontaine, Ohio.
Yeah, it's a rural hospital, 3 in the morning. There have been a lot of babies born. Yeah, it's a girl, and off it goes, right?
Toby, you talked earlier about having a dog and loving
I don't mean to sound like unsympathetic, but the parents presumably had to change a lot of diapers. The parents presumably had to potty train. Like, what the fuck happened? They know how the parts work. They created the child. What happened?
Dog and, wanting to spend the rest of your life with it. Well, that's fine. I have a dog and I love my dog, but isn't there any desire to bridge the gap between us and you? I mean, don't you feel alone? Don't you feel like you want to make some connection with us?
I have connections with people who come into my life that I decide I want connections with. It doesn't matter to me if those people are males or females or anything else. If they're nice people and they accept me the way I am and I like the way they are, we have connections.
I was just wondering, when you go out to a public place and you have to go to the restroom, and also which do you use, and then when you shop or when you're going out, like formally, do you dress male or female? It's kind of, there's nothing that you would wear that would be neutral.
This is where it helps to be a starving grad student. Nobody expects you to have good clothes and to go out and be formal.
What are you studying in school?
Developmental psychology.
Psychology?
Yes.
And what do you use, the men's room or the woman's room?
Usually I avoid that situation whenever possible. If it's absolutely necessary and there's no way around it, I look around and I see where am I least likely to be walked in on. If I'm in a place where there's like a truck stop, hundreds of men and only a few women, I'll use the women's room. If I'm in a place like a grocery store usually, where there's lots of women in and out of the women's room and nobody in the men's room, I'll use the men's room. I have been known to walk into one and notice there's no soap here, or there's no towels, or something, so I walk out and go into the other one.
So you've adapted your bladder to suit the circumstance.
My bladder is the same either way.
But
Doctor, how many neutral people are there more than we know of?
The secret is, this is the first one I've seen.
Yeah. And you've been studying gender.
And I've seen over 3,500 gender-related patients who are confused. But this is the first time I saw somebody who was neither this nor that. I'm curious to know what your chromosomal pattern is. Did they do that?
They did that, and I consider it irrelevant information. It's sort of like if you had someone who was born without eyes, and you say to this person, what color eyes do you have? The person says, I don't have any eyes.
But it helps to know whether you're XX or XY.
Why does it help? If you did a chromosome check on eye color, and you said, well, if you had eyes, they would be green.
But that doesn't
You still have a person who doesn't.
Not
Is
the
it
same
XX
thing.
or XY?
I think that's irrelevant, and I don't see any point in
Okay.
it.
Doctor, do you see if there's no parts, then, and you had, let's say you had a male chromosome X, whatever it is, I don't,
XY.
and you still had no penis, no testicles, no male hormones, no anything,
That's irrelevant. There are many kinds of sex. One of the sexes is chromosomal sex. One is genetic sex. One is social sex. There are different kinds, physical sex. And Toby doesn't like to be put in any category. And that is Toby's right. But it would be interesting from a professional point of view to know what the chromosomal type was. If it were 85% of all cells have some chromatin, they call it bar bodies, BARR. And if it's XY, then we say this is a male. The Olympics
but
did that.
Doctor, if you took a chromosome, said Toby's a man, and Toby didn't have man's
And look at the Olympics now. And now there are male weightlifters lifting weights as women in the Olympics.
parts,
No.
what good is it for Toby to be a man?
No, I wouldn't say Toby is a man. I would say that Toby has the chromosomes of the male type.
I would like to know from Toby if it's accurate to picture your body as like a baby doll.
Ken doll.
That might be fairly accurate. Just a generic economy model, no frills added.
I want to ask Toby, when you go to Macy's.
Hang on. Have I reacted to the American Communist Party? The American Communist Party is a social media stunt. It is not a real thing. It is not taken seriously on the left at all. It is an AstroTurf thing that is literally funded by Russia. But that doesn't, and I don't really care that it's funded by Russia. I'm a big fan of Lauren Chen. Who's funded by is like immaterial. The point I'm making is that it's not real. It's not taken seriously on the left. It's a social media stunt. You guys have got to start accepting that just because you see someone going on Fresh and Fit or debating someone over something, That doesn't actually mean it's relevant on the left. I have discussed this numerous times. I will not cover them because they are not serious leftist activists. There are 0 serious leftist activists that take Hawes seriously. Hawes is a LARPer. He's not a real communist.
Seeds, or you get up in the morning, do you take a dress as well as pants, or you say, oh, I feel like this today?
No.
Your wardrobe is all pants?
Wear my jeans or my sweatshirts or whatever.
What if you feel like a skirt today? You put the skirt on?
Why would I feel like a skirt? I wore skirts for 12 years. They're awkward and they're inconvenient and they come up and your tights rip and why would anybody want to bother with them?
Doctor, is it possible that Toby is the only person in the world without male and female parts?
I could only say that Toby is the only person that at least I know, that has this configuration. And
But,
this
I mean,
also psychological...
Aren't there medical journals that would say that there are people like this?
If there are, I haven't seen them or read about them.
There are people that don't have developed sexual or reproductive organs. What is, maybe unique, I hope not unique, but what I haven't heard of before is someone with such a condition identifying as a neuter rather than as a female or a male. Usually if the baby is assigned as a female, they take it home and they say it's a female, and then at puberty when nothing happens, they will give hormones like I described before, and the person will be living as a woman.
Jane, when you met Steve, was Steve he or her?
It was a he. He just changed over to, the doctor had just examined him, took all the tests that he was talking about Toby taking, and they found out that he's completely male, and they told him the 4 surgeries that he'd have to take. Then we had a friend that knew both of us, but she hadn't mentioned any names or anything. She was just telling me about a person she was concerned about. And we were going shopping one day, and she said, I need to check on a friend. I said, fine. And that's the first time I saw him. And he was, he just had jogging pants and stuff on, To me, when I first looked at him, to me, he was a male.
We'll take a break. We'll come back with some more of your story. It's fascinating.
All right. On to part 4. Guys, we are doing a marathon today of non-binary history. We are starting off with Sally from 1989, where they had this crazy non-binary person on it that apparently was the first ever autism activist and is responsible for autistic sex education today. Oh joy, oh joy. And then we're going to go into some other non-binary history stuff after that. We do have some beer on this glorious Friday afternoon. If you would be so kind as to mount the like button for me. If you don't want to mount the like button, you can high-five the like button, give the like button a kiss on the cheek, give the like button a slap on the ass. Do whatever you want to the like button. The like button consents to everything. And we're having ourselves a little marathon today.
Hi, I have a question for Toby. I'd just like to know, how is it that you go to the bathroom? Like, if you have an opening, if you don't have a male part or a female part?
Do you have a penis?
No, I don't.
How do you go to the bathroom?
Through my vagina. The opening.
I don't think so.
Like,
the urethra is a separate opening from the vagina. So sometimes in a male, the penis will not be fused all the way along and the urine will come out of the urethra rather than through the penis. In a female, the urine never comes through the vagina. It's a separate opening.
Okay, I have a question for Steve. Up till you were 25, you got your operations.
Mm-hmm.
So did you have relationships with females or with males before that?
Females.
You had relationships, like,
Yeah.
when did you go out on dates with males?
Well, I had one relationship before I met my wife, and she was very young. But I met her I couldn't go to a straight bar because they throw me out of the joint, dressed that way. Being that way. So I went to a different type bar and picked up a girl.
Wait a minute. You get this?
No, when you were until 25,
I think.
you were a female.
Yeah, but what you're trying to say to us is you went to a lesbian bar and picked up a woman.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the only way I could at the time.
If he'd gone to a bar the guys go to, they'd have thrown her out.
You never had a relationship with another male?
No. My desire has always been for female. I believe that's a God-given talent.
I have a question for Steve.
Whatever.
He said that at age 12 he started to have an erection.
Right.
Now, from age 12 until age 25, nobody realized that you were a man?
I kept it hid. I was so ashamed of it. I knew that when I made this decision, I knew what I'd have to go through with. It was rough on my job. You know, I had to walk in that place and use the women's bathroom for the first time. That was so hard. I mean, the men's bathroom for the first time. That was so hard. And then my friends had to, I had to expound it to them and explain it to them. It was rough.
I mean, we're talking about the fact that 12-year-olds are aren't they, Doctor, pretty insecure about their sex anyhow?
Sure, usually.
And if a 12-year-old figures out there's something wrong with them, they're not about to go and explain, huh? Must be. You're laughing about it now, but this must have been very
It was
rough.
terrible. It was terrible. I had all these desires and as a male, and, I knew I was a male, and still I was having to live this life. It was I was confused for a long time.
I'd like to ask Toby if Toby finds it easier to have a relationship, even friendly relationship, with males or females. Do you feel closer to them, describing your condition or making them friends, males or females?
I don't relate to people differently depending on their sex, so if there are any real differences, I've never noticed them.
Wouldn't it be an interesting world if we were all like Toby?
No,
If
Sally.
everybody
Wouldn't last very
treated-
long.
No, but wait a minute. If we could treat every...
No, Sally, no, bad Sally, bad. No, it would not be an interesting world if we were all like Toby. No. Sally Jessy is responsible for the downfall of gender. This is how they won. This right here is how they won. They got to Sally Jessy in the 80s. Sally betrayed us. Sally was trying to be kind and empathetic and classy as she is, and Sally walked right into the genderqueer trap. I wonder how Sally feels about this now. I think Sally's still alive. We should tweet at Sally if Sally Jessy is on Twitter, I swear to God. But we should try to get in touch with Sally and be like, Sally, do you have any regrets? Do you have any regrets about this? What do you think about this now, Sally? Can someone find out if Sally's still alive? I really hope she is.
Wouldn't it be an interesting world if we were all like Toby?
No.
If everybody
last very
treated...
long.
No, but wait a minute. If we could treat every person not like they were male and I had to come on to them or female... Wait, wouldn't it be...
Wait, is Sally on Twitter? Hang on. Oh my God. Is this the real Sally? Is she active? Oh no! Sally posted on Twitter 4 hours ago. Okay. New plan. I need to make a clip of this and we need to get in touch with Sally. Hang on. And no one is to be mean to Sally. Again, we will not besmirch Sally Jessy on this channel. I will honor the legacy that my grandmother created by making me watch Sally Jessy every single day. Sally Jessy is on Twitter today, and she still looks fabulous. Her glasses are even better now than they were in the 80s. And Sally is still the queen. Look, Sally even knows she's the queen. Look at that profile photo. We didn't know how good we had it with Sally. Except that Sally may have ushered in gender... Sally has a show now? Wow. Wow. Okay. Okay. We're going to clip this. We're going to get in touch with Sally. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Let's set the sound up. Sally is our queen. We will not... It's okay that she ushered in gender activism to America by having Toby, a.k.a. Jim Sinclair, on her show. We forgive Sally. But I really hope that Sally denounces this nonsense. Now that Sally has lived long enough to see the ramifications of their actions. Yeah, you can do whatever you want. Roseanne follows her. Can we get a connection to Sally through Roseanne?
Any real differences? I've never noticed them.
Wouldn't it be an interesting world if we were all like Toby?
No.
If everybody
last very
treated...
long.
No, but wait a minute. If we could treat every person not like they were male and I had to come on to them, or female, but wouldn't it be fascinating? You were going to say something about that?
I just think that I know so many people who know who they are. And Toby, to me, is just someone who is very secure, and I think we should all be.
You think there's a lesson there?
Yes,
No,
I think we should all be as secure in
No!
ourselves and confident that she goes on and is going to school and is going to become somebody, no matter what anyone else thinks about
And
her.
doesn't need to have the little thing that says male, female, this, that, this.
You know, her choice was. And I think that's
It was a mistake.
one feather in her cap, and we should all take a lesson from
Or his cap.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Okay. Okay. Moving into part 5 of Sally. I believe this is our last part, and then we'll watch other non-binary things. I cannot believe that Sally is on Twitter. I feel like my grandmother is smiling down on me. Do you guys know how you have those moments in life where you feel like everything in your life has led to this moment? Where those afternoons or mornings, depending on what time Sally aired, that I spent sitting with my grandmother watching her show while my grandmother was smoking cigarettes and drinking whiskey, it has all led to this point. I have 4 times the Twitter followers of Sally Jessy. And we are going to confront Sally on Twitter very nicely. And we are going to ask Sally if she still believes that everyone should be like Toby. And my grandmother will be smiling down from heaven. Can I tell you guys a quick story about my grandmother so that you guys understand the type of woman that my grandmother was? This is like my favorite story ever of anyone in my family ever. Because like I don't always have good relations with my family because my family's a little messed up. But I loved my grandmother. Because my grandmother laid the foundation for me being an uppity bitch on the internet today. Let me tell you about my grandmother. After she spent a lifetime... we're going to do this. After my grandmother, whose name was Shirley, spent a lifetime smoking cigarettes and drinking whiskey and sitting at the table doing her crossword puzzle with her lipstick on, my grandmother was diagnosed with diabetes. The diabetes was exacerbated by the smoking. My grandmother ended up losing her leg. Now, this might sound like a sad story, and that kind of sucked. That was very traumatic for me when my grandmother lost her leg. I was in the hospital at Dartmouth Hitchcock when she had the surgery. I saw the leg before and after. It was very traumatic. After my grandmother lost her leg, she went into a nursing home because she needed full-time care. She was still smoking her cigarettes every single day. Anytime the grandchildren went to the nursing home to go and visit her, my grandmother would ask them to smuggle her in a smidgen, by which she meant a little bottle of whiskey. So my grandmother, after she lost her leg, she didn't change at all. She was like, no, fuck you. I'm still going to smoke my cigarettes, and my grandchildren are still going to sneak me in whiskey to the nursing home. And then the nursing home developed a policy where the nursing home outlawed all smoking in the nursing home. Now, my grandmother is not a politically active person, but my grandmother was not going to allow this to stand. And my grandmother found a friend in the nursing home, and they had gone out and had smoked cigarettes together. And my grandmother and her friend formed a committee in the nursing home, and they found an ombudsman. They found an advocate. And my grandmother and her friend petitioned the nursing home, and they won to allow every senior citizen resident in the nursing home that was already in the nursing home when the new no smoking policy was implemented. Every single person that was already in the nursing home got grandfathered into that policy, which meant that even though there were no residents of the nursing home that were new that were allowed to smoke, even though no staff members were allowed to smoke, the staff of that nursing home still had to take my grandmother out multiple times a day so my grandmother could have her cigarette. She petitioned the nursing home to be able to smoke, and she won. And so it was like her and like 3 other people that were still allowed to smoke in the no smoking nursing home. Grandma W. I loved my grandmother. I loved my grandmother very much. When my grandmother died, my grandmother was cremated and laid to rest in a bright red urn. And when the urn was buried, because they did actually just bury it at some point, when the urn was buried, my grandmother was not only buried in the bright red urn, in the grave with her was a tube of lipstick, a smidgen of whiskey, and a pack of cigarettes. I'm not making any of that up. That was real. We buried her with whiskey, cigarettes, and a tube of red lipstick. And that is who my grandmother was. And if that doesn't explain to you the person that I have turned into today, it's genetic. It's genetic, and I won the genetic lottery with my grandmother, and my grandmother was the best. And while she still had her leg, she still went out to the Moose dancing every Thursday night. And then she couldn't dance anymore after she lost the leg, but she was dancing every Thursday night at the Moose with the whiskey and the cigarettes. And that is the story that I will tell you as we go into this last episode this last part of Sally.
The implications of having somebody like Toby is almost mind-boggling. Might want to do a doctoral thesis on what happens if somebody comes and they are neither male nor female.
Probably will write her PhD thesis on that. It's a good subject.
It's an excellent subject, but the whole philosophy of it. Toby, tell me the story of the sock.
Okay. Socks, actually.
Socks?
This was back when I was about 16, and the professionals who were supposed to be helping me and helping my family and helping everybody to adjust and to figure out what was what had finally decided, well, I obviously was not going to adjust as a female. So I should change over to a male identity, and I should be supported in doing this. And their idea of how I should become a male was, since I didn't have a penis, I should wear a jockstrap with some rolled up socks inside it to put a bulge in my pants. And I listened to this, and I spent a couple of weeks just staring at the crotch of everybody I met to see if I could tell the difference. And what I found out was that if people were wearing underwear and if their trousers fit properly, I couldn't see any difference. But I thought, well, maybe there's just something, and maybe I'm brain damaged or something, and other people can see a difference that I'm not noticing. And then I thought, well, if that's true, what are they going to say if I suddenly get a bulge that I didn't have before? being a naive kid who thought the experts really knew what they were talking about, I gave it a try. And I found out a couple of interesting things. First of all, I found out if you stand in front of the mirror and you put the socks in the jockstrap, and then you look in the mirror again and you take them out, you can't tell the difference. They're not visible. But if you go around about your normal everyday activities like walking up and down the stairs and sitting and standing, and they work themselves into thoroughly unnatural looking but quite visible conformations. And if you ride your bike to the mall 2 miles away, the socks will work their way out of the jockstrap. And when you get off your bike, park it, and start walking across the parking lot, the socks will fall out your pant leg onto the ground. And it's sad.
So you stopped wearing socks and a jockstrap?
That experiment lasted one afternoon. And the point is, all of these experts, they think, well, you have to be one way or the other, or you won't adjust. The way to adjust is to wear something attached to you that isn't a part of you. Well, I fit into my clothes just fine without that. I fit into my relationships just fine without that. I might not fit into somebody else's relationships, but why should I have somebody else's relationships? You know, I can walk and I can ride a bike and I can not worry about things falling out of my clothes. I can make love without working up a sweat. Why do I need...
The whole idea that it took a whole team of learned experts to tell you to put socks in a jockstrap and strap it on, and that was going to take care of whatever there was.
That would take care of being 16 years old, having a high voice and no facial hair, and making people think I was a male.
And they get paid for that. You know?
They get paid for that, yes.
We'll take a break.
That's it. I think we've reached the end of our Sally, Jessy. Well, that was a good blast into the past. We appreciate Sally.